Hey, y'all, and welcome back to the Healing CEO podcast. I am your host, Keana Spencer. And today I want to talk to you about something I've had to walk through more than once, something that I know a lot of us are quietly wrestling with. And that's the shift from overwhelm to obedience. What do you do when the vision is clear, but the energy isn't? What do you do when you feel led, but not fully equipped? This episode is about overwhelm, the kind that doesn't just exhaust your body, but clutters your purpose. And it's about what happens when you finally say yes anyway. But before we dive in, I want to pause and acknowledge something from last week. Last week's episode was personal, maybe the most personal one that I have shared so far. I've talked about returning to my marital home, a space I had avoided for so long. It was just a full circle moment that I didn't even see coming. I was afraid it would break me. Instead, it confirmed that healing had already happened, even in silence. And the response I received from a few of you, it just reminded me why I created this space. Not to show up perfect, but to show up present. So if you did listen to that episode, thank you. Thank you for holding space for me while I walk through something very real. And if you haven't listened to it yet, I encourage you to go back. It's one of those episodes that just doesn't inform, it affirms. That episode reminded me that this platform was never about pretending to have it all together. It's about leading from the middle, not the mountaintop. Okay, now let's talk about obedience, especially when you're still feeling overwhelmed. Well, what does overwhelm feel like? And I'm talking about the unspoken kind. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what overwhelm feel like, because it's not the kind you post about. It's the kind that you press through, where your brain is spinning with ideas, but your spirit feels stuck, where everything feels important, everything feels urgent, and you feel like no version of rest will ever be enough to catch up. That was me when Solace Grove came into view. God gave me the vision, and I gave him the delay. Not because I was defiant, but because I was drowning in questions like, how am I supposed to do this? I had the calling, but not the clarity. I had the burden, but not the bandwidth. I had the desire, but not the direction. Like, to be real, obedience didn't even feel holy at first. It felt scary, messy, and unprepared. I used to think that when God called you to do something, he gave you step-by-step direction. Turns out, he often just gives you your next breath. So obedience for me was recording my first podcast with imperfect sound, even when my voice is tired. Enrolling in the behavioral health training, even when I didn't know where it was going to lead. Going back to Wisconsin, not to revisit pain, but to reclaim peace. Showing up for Solace Grove when I didn't feel ready to lead. Taking rest without guilt. Overwhelmed doesn't leave because I found the answer. It started to break when I just said yes. And that's because obedience isn't glamorous. It's not aesthetic. It's not even always visible to others. But it's sacred, and it will take you further than any strategy ever could. Now, here's the part we don't talk about. Sometimes the overwhelm isn't about the task, it's about the doubt. And that is the root cause of delay. What if I mess up? What if no one's listening? What if I'm not ready? But here's what I learned the hard way. God doesn't need you to be certain. He needs you to be surrendered. We delay obedience waiting for permission, for peace, for some sort of sign. But the truth is the peace often follows the obedience, not the other way around. Let's talk about what I like to call obedience in motion. INMOTION. So I had a few small moments where I was present in my obedience. And that's what I call obedience in motion. So those moments where me sitting down to plan out my staff board meeting before I even had a full staff, me praying over a physical space that I didn't even have, or me creating new documents for a licensing process that I was still waiting to be cleared for. So just understanding that obedience is doing the work before it's visible, before it's validated, before it's proven. It's showing up not to perform, but to prepare. Like the other night when I was sitting on my bed with my notebook open, all my laptops, I have like 5 of them, and I was just completely overwhelmed. And I remember whispering to God, like, I know you called me to do this, but I seriously feel like you picked the wrong person. And I was so serious. But then I felt his gentle response, and my spirit said, you're not the wrong person. You're just the real one. That did it right there, because it reminded me that I don't need to be the strongest. I just need to be available. And we all know that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the call. And sometimes that qualification isn't a title or a degree. It's survival, it's discernment, it's willingness. You don't have to be ahead to be assigned. You just have to trust the one who called you. Now let's take a leadership pause. Well, that's what I like to call it, a leadership pause. It's a reflection moment. So let's reflect on this question this week. What have you delayed because you're waiting to feel ready when all God needs is for you to say yes? Sit with that. Journal on it. Pray through it. Because the breakthrough doesn't come after the plan. It comes after your obedience. It comes after your obedient yes. So I challenge you. Don't wait for the overwhelm to leave. Start where you are. One small yes at a time. Because the more you move in obedience, the more the fear loses its grip on you. And the more peace follows your yes. So if this episode met you where you are, overwhelmed, unsure, but quietly willing, I want you to know that's enough. You don't need to build from certainty. You just need to build from faith. If you're holding a vision that feels too heavy, if you're trying to map out every detail before you move, if you've been carrying shame about your delay, let this be your permission slip. You can be overwhelmed and obedient at the same time. You can be tired and trusted at the same time. You can be healing and still be building something holy. So thank you for sitting with me in this space. Share this episode with someone who's quietly hesitating, someone who needs to be reminded that their yes still matters. Subscribe wherever you are listening. Visit our website, solacgrove.org. Join our movement, leave me a message, and stay connected. We're just getting started. You don't have to be perfect to move forward. You just have to be willing. I'm Keana Spencer, and this is the Healing CEO Podcast.